Okay, we have a 2002 Mazda Tribute, and I'm going to be fixing the oil pan gasket under here, and I'm just going to show you what you're going to need to remove. Okay, so if you come under here, you're going to have these shrouds that are held on under here by these 10 millimeters. I've already took these out, just showing you how they come out of here. They fasten on the sides, and first need to get those out of the way so you can see what you're doing. Now the next thing, we're going to have to get under here, and you can see how it's leaking here, and it's getting on to the exhaust. And I had replaced the valve covers. Originally thought it was leaking from there, but it was actually coming from the oil pan really bad, and I was smelling it burning off the exhaust. You can see it's leaking all around here pretty bad. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is get this piece of pipe, this flex pipe that connects these manifolds. We're going to have to get this out of the way. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need to remove, to make things easier, remove this brace. We got a couple of 15 millimeters that hold this brace on. So the first thing we're going to do is just take those out, and then we'll move on. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do after removing that brace is get up here on these holding the front part of this exhaust. Alright. And then we'll just slide that back out of the way and just replace these here. Okay, now the next time we're going to get back here, we've got a couple on this that we need to remove. It's on the second manifold. Go ahead and get both of these off. Now, this won't just drop down, or at least it shouldn't, because there's a hanger right there. But, you know, keep a hand and make sure that it's not just going to fall on you or pop off. Keep a hand on it. Guess we just about got this one here. Okay, now we're going to move on back here. We've got two on this second or the third catalyst back here, and we need to remove these. Okay, now we're going to take you some WD-40 or silicone spray on this. It hooks on to these right here, and it's very difficult to push off. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to need both of my hands. Everything's loose, and we're just going to kind of pull down here. This will pop off. You just pull it down here and disconnect it right here, and this should just separate. And we'll push this off right here of this hanger, and then this whole piece will come loose here. Okay, go ahead and disconnect this O2 sensor right here as well. Okay, and it'll have a couple clips on these studs. You should be able just to pull it off here. Now this section is ready to come out. We'll just set it aside, and we'll go ahead and put all of these back where they go, so we're not losing them for now. But this whole piece here, you can see, is out, and then that clears up all this room here now where we can get our bolts out. Just putting these back on here, and we'll get on our oil pan. And you can see how bad this is. I mean, with the covers up here, couldn't even really see this, but it's just oil is dripping off of the bolts. Now, First thing we'll want to do, of course, is get the oil out of here. So we're going to have to get a pan and drain the oil. And then we're going to go ahead and get on these bolts here. Okay, so we got all the oil drained out and we're ready to move on. We're going to need a 13 millimeter, and we're going to just get started going all around the perimeter here, breaking these loose. Now when you get down to here, you need to take this one out that's going into the transmission before you can get to this one. Just take you a short 13 and go ahead and take that completely out. It's the same on the back. You could probably get to that one, but anyways, we got to get all these all around here. And just take note of where your stud bolts are at so we can put them. Usually they have clips and stuff that go on them, so just take note of those. And we're just going to, like I said, we're just going to continue. We're going to take all these out, including the two that go into here. Okay, so at this point I've left a bolt up here and I've left one back here just so I can get a hand on it. And we're going to go ahead and just remove this little flap here. We got a couple of bolts actually in there. You can see those. Hold on just a second. Okay, so there's actually a couple of bolts hiding up in here when I took that flap out, so we'll need to get those out as well. Okay, so this thing is loose at this point, and we're going to get a hand on it. So we'll get back here and get this one, last one here, and get this one. Make sure you got you some cardboard down. This thing will be dripping, and it'll just drip for days. So make sure to put some cardboard on here so it's not making a mess. Okay, so here is this removed, and here is what this looks like, and there'll be a few spots here and here where they've got some silicone on it. And as you can see, this this gasket is completely useless. Now these are about $30 when I looked at the parts stores. And I'm not going to be wasting $30. I mean, you can see, I know it's got 170,000 miles on it, but this gasket is horrible, and all these things do is leak. I'm going to be putting some ultra black RTV on here. Get out of this glare, and just resealing this thing basically. Now, because it's, I would just put the RTV directly on to the pan, but because this thing is so thick, I'm gonna have to reuse this. So what I'm gonna do is put the RTV on both sides of this basically. I'll just put it down, stick this to it, and then put another bead around the top before I stick it up in there. It's an extra step, but because this is so thick, I think it's going to either throw my bolts off or it'll throw off my bolt alignment on my transmission there. So, because I mean, you can see this thing's like an 1/8 inch thick. So anyways, we're going to have to get this cleaned up. It's completely filthy. I wish I would have gotten it to the car wash before I even started this. But anyways, so that thing will set and drip, and we'll get to work on cleaning this up, and then we'll clean the surface of that and get this bolted back down. It seems like a big deal, but it's really not that big deal. The RTV is like $7 for a tube of this stuff, and it never fails. I mean, if you let it cure 24 hours, tighten it down, you don't have to worry about this stuff leaking. And that's why I really like it. The ultra black, that's the kind I get, works really good on these oil pans. So anyways, we're just gonna have to get this cleaned up now. Okay, so I'm just using this purple cleaner that you can get pretty much anywhere. and I'm also cleaning this up. Now you want to rinse this stuff off when you get done cleaning, because it will eat up aluminum and stuff. It's a degreaser and it's pretty strong, and you don't want to get it on your hands. You want to get you some gloves, some chemical gloves. It's pretty strong stuff, but I'm using a brush. Said it works real good for cleaning this up. Now, as far as the bolts that I took out, I just put them in a little bit of gasoline. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with that, and I'll just let them soak in there and take them out with a magnet in a minute, let them dry out so they're not going back in dirty. Now, if you're, decide just to buy now those are like $30. If you can, go get you one of those and slap back on here, and it'll last for a while. But if you want it to last, then this RTV is the way to go. Well, this is what I'm going to be putting on here. But just going to continue on. I got to get this cleaned up. I did take out this little piece here out of the pan. Had some little 8mm, so allowing me to clean this up a little better. So I'm just going to clean this up, and then I'll clean the surface with some brake cleaner, and also clean the surface underneath the vehicle. So that's where we're at this point, and it's going to continue cleaning this up. Okay, now I just took some cleaner, some brake cleaner, and I've cleaned around this with a rag until there's absolutely no black or dirt coming off of this surface. If it's not clean, then the RTV is not going to stick. So clean all that really well, and this here is ready to go. We're just going to do the same exact thing to the gasket, surface, and the pan, and I've got them cleaned up and drying over there at the moment. Okay, now this is this plate I'm putting back in here. Took out to make it easier to clean, and we're going to just go ahead and snug that down. I'm getting ready to run around this with my brake cleaner and also the surface of that gasket. Okay, so this is the first bead I put on there. I've just put it on the back side of this gasket, and I've also went around, completely around where the screw holes and stuff are. So put a good bead all the way around. I'm just going to flip it over, set it into place, and then I'm going to put a bead just like I did here all the way around the other side, and we'll just set it into place. And that's a good enough bead right there, and I'll put the same size bead on the other side. Okay, so there we are. We've done the same thing to this side, and now the delicate part is getting it up onto the block there without smudging it. So we're going to try not to make a mess here, and try to get a couple bolts in this thing. Okay, so I've got a bolt there, and I got a bolt back over here just to setting it in place, and it went. The key is to line it up as best as you can before you go to smearing it around. So it went pretty smoothly, and now we're just going to get our other bolts all in here. We'll make sure that everything's lining up, but we are not going to do anything other than just finger tighten these, and we're going to let it set for 24 hours. Said you try to tighten it down and torque it now, you're just going to squeeze all of your RTV out, and then it'll be leaking. Okay, so there we are. Just got them hand tightened, just barely finger tightened down. That's all I've done. Left these out for now, and it sure looks a lot nicer to have the pan all cleaned up and everything, and hopefully, so we'll let this cure for 24 hours. We'll leave the pipe and everything out. Can't put that in yet, and just let it sit here and cure out for a while, and then we'll come back and we'll torque it about 70 or 80 inch-pounds. It doesn't take a lot. Okay, so we're back here. It's been a full 24 hours. We've let it set, and even though this will be set up here, when we go to tighten this, we'll probably see a little bit try to squish out, but it won't be a lot, and at least we know that it's going to seal. Now I've noticed since it's been sitting here, I still have a little bit of oil coming from some various places, but at least with this oil pan fix, which is leaking massively, we'll be able to determine where some of these other leaks are coming from. It could be from the seals around the crank sensor or various other things on the front cover there. But it's not real bad, a lot better. So we got our inch-pound, 80 inch-pounds. We're going to go on these. Now there was another thing that I had noticed. I don't know what the purpose of this stud bolt right here was, but I know that when you go to put this piece of pipe in here, that this likes to get in the way of this collar. So I'm going to swap that with one of these like this. So we're just going to take that one and swap it for one of these others, because I don't really need that there. And then we're going to go ahead and start torquing them to 80 inch-pounds. Okay, and just to show you, like here it's squishing out wet, and here it's squishing out, and this is why I allow this 24 hours to cure up. Now when you start torquing, you'll start from the middle, go from here to here, and then you'll crisscross back over here, 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 and then work your way to the outer edges. And as you're torquing this, you'll probably have to at least go around this twice, because once you get this torqued, it'll push down, and then you'll have to start back in the middle and just crisscross your way, and just make sure that they're all torqued the same. And if you don't have a inch-pound torque wrench, just get them down, just hand tighten them with the ratchet, not very tight. It doesn't have to be terribly tight, just enough to hold it. Okay, so we've got all those torqued. I went over it about 3 times just to make sure. Now I'm just putting in these bolts that go into the transmission, and we're just going to snug them down real good, and then we'll put this little rubber flap back into here. Okay, so now we got this connector flex line piece, and we're getting ready to put it up into place. And the main thing is I like to try to get this lined up with the bolts, and then this usually will just kind of go into place, but you do have to make sure you halfway have it in a position as you're doing that. And remember, we got that brace out, and we got to go on to the pipe down there, and it's kind of dangling right now, but it's because I got some other stuff loose there. But this is the last, the only piece you should have to put back here, but we have to kind of get all these lined up. So we're just going to go ahead and lift this up into here, try to get this on here and up onto the front, and then we'll line it up with that back there and slide that on, and we'll be able to put our brace back in here. Okay, so we just set it into place, and we got one started, and just set this on here, and we can go ahead and place these two up here. And then we'll just get on putting our hanger on and reconnecting it to our other pipe back there. And then we'll just snug these down and make sure to reconnect this O2 sensor that goes right over here. Just routes right back through here. It's got a couple of these that go on to here. So just slide those back onto those studs. And just put that right back in place. Okay, so now we're just going to get on our hanger back here. Okay, and spray that with some silicone grease before you go to slipping it back on up here. It'll make it a lot easier. And there we have that. And we're just going to get our pipe reconnected here. Okay, now we're just going to go ahead and tighten all of these 15mm bolts up real good. And we'll be all finished up with this. We'll just need to get some oil back in here now. Okay, I almost forgot. We got to get our stabilizer bar brace across through here. This goes right up here. We got a couple more bolts on this side. We're just going to go ahead and set that right back up into place. Okay, and you'll want to get yourself a nice long extension to tighten these down real good. So we got that snug down. Okay, now all you'll have left here is replacing this cover that goes as shroud under here. Just put your 10mm back. And I'm not putting mine back on here right now. Okay, so that's going to conclude this video on fixing this oil pan leak. If you found it helpful, please give it a like. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and I thank you for watching.